Yo, what is up gamers? Russ here coming at you with another commentary style video. Today we are taking a look at the Spires of Ascension on plus 21 on MDH, and this is from, at time of recording, this is the last, previous week that we had with affix wise. So it is a Tyrannical, Spiteful, Necrotic, and of course Encrypted Season 3 affix. Let me know, by the way, down below, just a side comment here quickly. If you had any more trouble with Spiteful last reset than you have before, I personally found like they were hitting me quicker, they were activating more quickly, and I didn't see any patch notes or anything about them. Maybe I'm just bad, but I felt like I struggled way more last week than I have any other week with Spiteful, especially towards the end of the week. I don't know, I feel like they changed it halfway through the week or something. Anyway, I will put on screen for you now the talents and the soulbinds, and everything that you need to know, my gear and everything like that on screen for you now. So that will hopefully just be cycling through while I talk a bit at the beginning here. As usual, feel free to check out the Twitch stream if you'd like to see me do any of this stuff live. And if at any point throughout this video you decide that, you quite like this kind of content, then make sure you throw the video a like so I know to make more of this kind of stuff, right? Hopefully, before we get going, you have got yourself a nice little drink. I myself have got a cup of tea. Maybe treat yourself, get a little biscuit to go with your cup of tea, or a cold drink if you're more into a cold beverage. But yeah, strap on in, and I'll take you through this commentary with me as usual. I will be fast forwarding, slowing down, stuff like that if I feel like there's anything good to talk about, like talking points. I want to highlight not only what we did well but also what we could have improved on. So I always try to pick a key which isn't just a complete stomp or a complete face roll, and also isn't just really scuffed, because I think that would not make for a good watching experience. So hopefully you'll enjoy, and let's get on with the key. So as the pull timer goes down now, one thing that I didn't really talk about in my previous videos is that you can actually pre-meta without using a turnip punching bag or anything like that, or pulling some trash mobs. So what I do is on 5 seconds I use my Blood Elf racial, obviously this works for Horde, and then I use my Immolation aura, and then I beam into meta, and that'll just mean that I have, with the 4 set, something like a 30-second meta for free. I usually overwrite it anyway because I want to Sinful Brand, but it does mean that I get a few more extra globals out, maybe a Death Sweep or 2 if I'm playing First Blood, before I, reactivate meta to put Sinful Brand on everything, and I'm going to I-beam everything straight after. So I usually run into the pack with an I-beam, into a meta, into an I-beam, so I don't really get much use out of the pre-pull meta. But at the end of the day, it is literally free, so there's no reason not to, just in case I ever decide to switch it up in a key, right? Now, I got kind of lucky here as well. I managed to get my trinket, which is the Zymox Cache of Acquired Treasures trinket, onto a bleed axe. I pulled the axe pretty early on in this pull, which really helps and really adds to a lot of damage. The absolute best that can happen, really, is that you pull the axe like as you're running into the first pack. That's amazing, because you can just pull the axe, do your I-beam, that'll put, obviously I-beam crits, right? So it'll crit everything, and then you can meta Sinful Brand everything, and then I-beam again, that will refresh the bleed on everything. And then you might get a third one if you've got an in that pack. There's usually an in the first pack or something. You'll probably be able to get a third I-beam into the crit trinket window, the axe trinket, and even more, maybe a fourth one if you're really lucky and you're playing Cycle of Hatred. I am playing Cycle of Hatred in this key, so you might get even a fourth I-beam in. So that's like the absolute optimal kind of situation that can happen with that trinket, because it's just got 100% crit chance. It's not quite as good as for other classes like rogues. They're insane at proccing that trinket, but things that do proc the trinket, while we're on the subject, I-beam, obviously 100% chance. Blade Dance does not. Immolation Aura does not. Chaos Strike and Demon's Bite do, and Fell Rush does, but only on things that you crit, obviously. So you can Fell Rush through a pack and it will crit some things and not crit other things, so it'll put the bleed on the things that it crits. So sometimes it could be worth to Fell Rush through a pack when you have the axe pulled, but I'm still not sure if it's actually worth stopping your rotation to do that. Maybe if you're using an Unbound Chaos proc at the same time, then why not, right? But other than that, I'm not 100% sure. So here I do not have meta for the second pull, but I obviously will have it back up for the boss fight now. As you can see, this hunter, Survival Hunter's fucking slap, by the way. This guy is kicking my ass right now, but as you'll see in the boss, this one was actually taken from stream, and I was actually saying as we're going up here, I'm gonna kick this guy's fucking ass when we get on the boss, and you will see me do just that, actually, to be honest. Really good boss damage to this build. So Cycle of Hatred with Draven, actually, as you'll have seen. So I've kind of been talking over these trash balls because there's not too much going on. They're a bit hectic, but they're a bit more hectic on Fortified. So on Fortified, the things you want to watch out for, make sure that you have 2 kicks covering the Goliath, or you take at least 1 chamois in your group. A lot of people opt to run a Resto Chamois and Spires because having that Resto Chamois, he can kick every single cast on the Goliath by himself, which means that you're freed up to kick other things like Castigators, and you can stun Castigators, you can kick Castigators, and do things like that. We actually chain pulled in the Goliath on this pull, and our enhanced Chamois actually just like he floor POV'd as soon as we pulled this boss. It can kind of I've definitely been there before myself, to be honest. This bird Azuli's, he flies around and he turns. The very first time he flies at you when you pull the boss and turns, a lot of people kind of just for some reason forget. I've done it myself. They just forget that he has that mechanic where he shoots out these 3 like bullets, right? Just make sure you don't get caught by that. So actually what I do now, because I've obviously learned from my mistake when I've made that exact same one, and as the hunter has now done and died, kind of a shame, but if you like, as soon as the boss is pulled, I just make sure that I'm just really watching the bird, because like that was a bit messy. There's like 3 nameplates for the Encrypted. There's, we pulled a Goliath in. There's 2 boss nameplates. There's a lot going on. The Dismantler will spawn at some point as well. It can get a bit hectic. So at the start of the boss, I kind of just hold and I'm chilling for a second while I'm just making sure that I'm definitely not going to get hit by this bird dude. So that's just one thing you can do. Now, I kind of put on my Sinful Brand at the start. I beamed to extend it, and then I metas on top of the boss as soon as the Dismantler spawns. So I actually get Sinful Brand up on the bird guy, the humanoid boss, and also the Dismantler, and then I beam everything, which is doing a lot of damage. You can see my boss damage right now is really good. It's at 20k, and we're, the boss is at 33%, and this is a tyrannical boss too, so really good as well, because Bloodlust, the haste from Bloodlust is going to make your Sinful Brands tick faster, which makes them, I guess, tick harder, right? So yeah, pretty simple boss for a DPS. Just make sure you're not standing in the line between the boss and the bird, the woman and the bird. Make sure you don't stand between that, and just always be looking at the bird. I always target the bird and follow him around so that I can make sure that I'm in the correct position, so I hopefully won't be getting caught off guard by the 3 bullets he fires out, right? And one more thing to note is he changes direction slightly between every single bullet. You see the hunter just goes down again there, which is a pretty bad play, to be honest, but it is what it is. Luckily, I'm still alive and I'm kind of pumping, right? So I always stand behind the bird. You can see like he turns as soon as every time that he repositions, and then it will kind of turn like maybe 5 or 10 degrees left and right between the bullets, so you're not actually safe if you are standing on the front side of the bird. So my personal recommendation is that you always stand like directly behind the bird, and he's never going to do a 180 and catch you off guard, right? So pretty simple boss. Try and get Sinful Brand up on both of them. I beam both of them, and put your damage on the bird, and just make sure you don't get hit. You should be pretty good as a DH on that boss anyway. So moving on to the next pack, pretty hard one. I always make sure that I've got a kick on one of the Ether Divers. So in this case it is Star, so I'm just going to make sure I kick that one. And then just doing as much AoE damage as you possibly can. You want to kind of hug the stack and the tank on this. The tank needs to stay in range of the skirmishers, or they're going to start throwing javelins at him. Those hurt way more than melee hits. So if you ever need to kite away, like here for example with the shades, sometimes you might need to like kite down the steps and then around the wall to kind of like stack things back up. But if the skirmishers are ever going into like range mode, then you want a line of sight, because they can just start targeting anyone. You could throw like a Fel Eruption or a Chaos Nova on them and things like that to try and help out your tank. But try and line of sight, save your own skin when he's got back in melee range. Maybe he needs to kite for necrotic or something like that, right? When he's back in range, then it's safe to go out again. So they work pretty similar to the mobs before the 3rd boss in this dungeon. So I have Stealth Claws. I pulled the axe a little bit too late, sadly, right after my I-beam. But because I'm playing Cycle of Hatred, I should be getting my I-beam back pretty soon, so I will at least get one big AoE bleed up on everything. yeah, this pack is not too hard. Your tank's probably going to be kiting for the most part, so the only thing really to do here as a DH is to watch your aggro a little bit. I try and focus the Praetor, and a little useful tip that you can tell your ranged DPS and healer, this Dark Praetor, you know how he dashes around all over the place and it's really annoying? If your ranged DPS, or if everybody stands like in melee range or really close to melee, it actually won't run away, and if it does, it won't run away very far. So that's a really good way of keeping cleave up on the Praetor, and not many people do that or know that. So there you go, pass that one on to your group next time you're in here, and they are not stacking up in melee range. So most of the trash here throughout the rest of the dungeon is kind of similar. Like we see it just cropping up again and again and again. So Ether Divers, interrupt the Chain Lightning. Stealth Claws, your tank's probably going to kite them. Just watch your aggro on those. And then Praetors, just try and get your people to stand in melee range. Try and cleave everything down fairly evenly. Another thing to note about the Praetors is the ranged ability they do on the tank is actually hurting way more. The Dark Seeker is hurting way more than the melee is. So if your tank's running away, like you can see here, he's running away from the Stealth Claw. He's actually taking so much damage from the Praetor, so it's kind of like a balancing act. You gotta kite around in a circle almost so that you can stay in range of the Praetor. And then on the next Goliath pack, we actually double pull this one. Always check interrupts before you go in this pack. I cannot stress that enough. Even on like Tyrannical, especially on Fortified, just make sure that you have 4 interrupts cycling between these Goliaths. Just say, you know, if no one's saying it, be the guy that says, me and X will do square, and tank plus hunter will do orange. You know, be that guy who you know, be that guy to make the key go smoothly. You know, because you're only going to regret it if you said nothing and then it goes wrong. You know, so be that guy. You know, the team player that people they definitely want, but they maybe don't admit to. You know. So yeah, you want 2 interrupts covering on every Goliath, and you should be good. Unless one of your interrupts is like a Shadow Priest or a Boomy, then they're probably not going to be having it back up in time. Luckily, we have 2 Chamois, so they honestly could have just double soloed, and that would have been fine. But yeah, I used my meta there to put the Sinful Brand up on everything. And I think, much to my dismay, I was not too happy about it as like a minute or so later, because now I'm not going to have meta up for the double Spear pack, which you do want a lot of damage. Now, obviously that pull required that we had some damage anyway, because it was quite a hard double pull, especially if you do that kind of pull on Fortified. That's going to be quite spicy. But yeah, as long as you have some damage. Obviously we have a Survival Hunter who just claps like every single pack with no cooldowns. It's completely insane. Yeah, Year of the Spear, I guess. So I might be bringing out my Hunter. I also want to bring out my Warlock. I also kind of want to try my Blood DK. There's so many cool things now to do with like these tier sets and the Encrypted, like how they scale with tier sets and double legendaries. Like I just want to play all the classes. Honestly, like I've never been enjoying WoW as much as I am right now for a very long time. I think, I don't know, maybe even Legion, maybe Legion, or maybe some point in BFA. But yeah, Skirmisher again is starting to throw spears because tank was out of range. So just make sure that if you ever see the spears going off, you can use your Imprison to stop a cast. You know, it'll instantly get unCC'd, so it'll probably just start casting it. But you know, you can delay a cast. You can maybe save someone's skin. Obviously you've got your Fel Eruption, your stuns and stuff like that as well. But ideally your tank just stays in range, or you'll kind of like line of sight it to kite it somewhere, right? So now you can see my axe is ready, and like in my bottom right corner, just above my enemy nameplate. Enemy nameplate, I guess it's called. My axe is ready. What I should have done is fell rushed in and then like slapped my trinket to proc the axe before this pull. I would have done probably way more damage, which probably would have offset the fact that I didn't have meta ready for this. Now, usually this is a pretty standard pull, and usually the spear goes down into like a stun, or like a silent sigil if you have a DH tank or something like that. Just make sure again that someone's on Goliath, very, very important. And I always hit the Inquisitor, making sure that I'm interrupting some Dark Lashes. Maybe I stun a Burden or something that comes out afterwards. And now we're just kiting back because our tank had Necrotic, plus we got Shades. So he handled that very, very well, to be honest. And now my meta's ready. So I do have that for the next pull, and then I won't have it for the boss. But because I'm playing Cycle of Hatred, I don't really need meta, to be honest, for bosses. I much rather use Metamorphosis as an AoE cooldown now with Venthyr and the 4-piece, with it coming back up and things, and just getting a nice AoE Sinful Brand that I can extend on everything. I much prefer using it for that, because on single target, you can, if you're playing Collective Anguish like I am here, you pretty much can't drop Sinful Brand on just a single target unless you have extreme amounts of downtime. So, you know, there's no boss in here really where you have like extreme downtime, maybe the last boss, but as you'll see later in the video, spoiler alert, I actually do manage to keep up a Sinful Brand through the intermission phase on last boss here, which is awesome. Now here, we skipped the pack. If you saw the patrolling pack, not many people do that skip. You actually just have to, if you missed it, go back, I guess, because I started talking about it a little bit late because I wanted to finish my point, but we just walked around it. It patrols up and down the pathway. You just hug the wall on the right and wait until it's kind of at the part where it gets wider as it's walking past. You can just creep on past to the right, and then it doesn't matter that the angel hasn't spawned from you killing the pack. You just jump off the edge, and you won't die or anything. You'll just get teleported. You'll get like a little tornado on your feet, and it'll just carry you across to the next pack, right? So here we've basically just skipped the pack without having to do anything. Now some people also invis this pack, but we went for the kill on this one. You can invis and walk to the right of this pack, but yeah, we went in for the kill here. So I put my Sinful Brand up on the squad leader here. Important, every time there is a squad leader that you are focusing it, it does, like, it has an AoE like aura, which reduces damage taken by the things around it. So make sure that you're not just pummeling AoE damage in, or even single target damage into targets which, you know, are close by to it when it is up. You can see that some things do take damage here. So AoE certainly works, but I think it's AoE, and if I was single targeting something, it would be taking like 50% damage reduction. I'm not 100% sure. I think certain AoE abilities do cleave fine and as normal, but you want to be getting that squad leader down because it's also really annoying to deal with. And then just kind of like interrupting off targets. If you see, you know, there's a mender up or something, you can dispel the weapon, pick up the weapon and put that into the squad leader. That's some free damage. Always be looking for the dispel on that with your DH dispel or your Blood Elf dispel. And yeah, just kick some off targets. Like any kicks in these packs is kind of good. And now we are on to the second boss, which is kind of one of the more annoying ones, especially a healer check for your healer, because he's going to put a very, very nasty dot on someone, and if you only have 1 or 2 ranged, that's they're gonna run out of like defensive cooldowns, right? Now you'll see I almost actually died there because I kind of ran through or jumped over the kind of like swirly black cloud. It's kind of what I was talking about on the first boss, where people kind of brain fart at the start of fights, and they just kind of forget that the mechanic comes in straight away in some cases. In this example, it's me forgetting that black cloud goes on the ground and it's going to start, you know, firing out the missiles and whatnot. So our Shami also died. I'm not exactly sure how he died, but what I do is I'm always, when I am paying attention, I'm always looking at that cloud on the ground and looking, you know, it rotates always anti-clockwise, the bullets that it's firing out, and they are just gonna, you know, appear for a bit. They can still hit you before they kind of fire. So I always just have my eye on that. I don't pay too much close attention to my rotation on this boss, actually. I'm just looking at the black clouds and the bullets and stuff and just making sure I don't get hit. Honestly, I think it's much more important to just make sure you don't get hit than to pull off some kind of seamless, amazing rotation on this fight, right? Doesn't really matter too much. Like you'll see, my damage is by no means bad. If you can do both, awesome. But I wouldn't, I would definitely prioritize living here and just not being that guy, you know what I mean? That guy who died and threw the key, or those 2 guys that died on this boss and threw the key, you know? So as soon as it spawns, I'm looking now where the previous one's fired, and I know that it's coming around, you know, soon, and now it's going to go through the boss. And then as soon as that one's gone through the boss, I move like to where it's just been so that I can dodge the next one that's going to be coming right for me. And there's always 2 black clouds, which is like 2 leaps that the boss does onto the ranged. And then you should drag it across the room. I actually personally prefer the kind of triangle technique where the tank will put one down and then move, you know, 10 or 15 yards across some ways to the room, and then put the next one down, and then run far. I feel like that's way easier for the melee to dodge, as long as he's not like jetting across the room, so you get like no uptime on the boss or whatever. I think it may be a bit more annoying for ranged, but I think it's a bit easier for melee. So you can see here, I like just managed to take a backpedal step there to dodge that one, and then we kill the boss. So that's awesome. Take a little sip of my tea. So we have opted to skip the Hellion here as well. Some people do kill this pack and take Woe, but you can actually just walk around it and jump over this lantern. Be very careful though when you do it. I definitely have seen people ninja ball this. You just want to jump. You can single jump over it as well on any non-DH classes. You saw my group do there. Just jump on top of the lantern and then walk forward, plop down, and then it's the normal kind of like skip after that, right? And I imprisoned the warden here and we went right. You can also go left. If you have like a DH or someone who can get up that wall and then mount up on a two-person mount or whatever and carry your group across. This pack is quite hard on fortified. You need interrupts. There's a couple dangerous interrupts. I actually can't remember them off by heart, so we'll see when we start the pack. But we're gonna go for the relic, of course, and then we basically assigning everyone to have their own interrupted target. So it looks like I'm on orange. Just making sure we get that down so we don't spawn like a woe drifter or something like that. I've been trolled many times for that. Now you see they put a blessed weapon up. Okay, yes, that's it. The something mending, that's the one that's really, really dangerous, and you want to interrupt that one. And then the Justicars, they have also like a pretty hard card, a pretty bad cast, but that one was not my interrupt. There it goes. The Forced Confession, that one's like an AoE wipe mechanic, so that's not good. And then Blessed Weapons, something that I could have done better here is use my Blood Elf Dispel. You can see it's just sitting chilling there up. I could have Blood Elf Dispelled those two Blessed Weapons, which would have been a double dispel, which put the weapons on the ground, which would have just been some free damage, right? So that's something that I could have done better there. So watch out for your, always on DH, like watch out for stuff you can be dispelling, especially in Spires. There's a lot of free damage you can get by doing so. And I actually almost went left because we kind of ass pulled that the Usurper pack here. I almost went left and I realized, like, thank God I was behind the pillar, because I almost ass pulled a second pack, and that probably would have been a wipe. Maybe not the key, but that would have been a wipe for sure. So we just went, I saw the tank was just running over to the pillars, so I was like, all right, you know what, I'm just gonna nether walk, because they throw the spears obviously, and just nether walk behind the pillars. So again, one use, I actually find myself nether walking over to this pillar a lot in pugs. So like when you don't have a shroud or a woe or something and you can't pre-position behind the pack, yeah, I always find myself nether walking to make sure I don't get speared in the ass, because it really, really hurts. Did you see that? This is not even fortified, and that just did 40% of my HP. So they were like molding at the chamois here, by the way, because he had an Earth Ellie out, and obviously the intention of the Earth Ellie was good, right? Like he obviously popped the Earth Ellie because he wanted to help, because we ass pulled the pack and it was getting a bit out of control. And then this tank's like molding him like, oh my god, dismiss your pet. And it's like, he's like, I literally can't do it. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't know, like it just seemed like a bit of a silly thing. He got so angry about it, so I don't know. Anyway, another Usurper pack, super easy when you're behind the pillar already. And then we're on to the boss. Now, one thing I learned pretty recently, which is really cool, is you can actually kind of force this boss to stomp the tank. So he has two abilities, right? Purifying Blast, which you just did on me there. If you can, and you have a defensive, you want to be popping Blur on that anytime you can. And obviously stacking up with these missile things. Now, this actually clipped me. Look at this, look at this. I don't feel like I was in the animation, but apparently that hit me. So luckily we had a res. But yeah, always standing behind the boss. Now, the tank can actually force the boss to stomp him by standing in the hitbox, which is that big red circle around the tank, around the boss when you have it targeted. So if the tank's not standing in that ring, he just won't stomp the tank, right? And that will mean that he only depletes his energy when he either does this big AoE thing on the ground, which is twice, does it twice, and then he just waits till he's out of energy. And then every Purifying Blast is 5, and that's kind of harsh on your healer. Or you can get him to stomp the tank for 5 energy as well. So you can kind of force the phase early if you have a lot of DPS cooldowns ready. The tank can just take a bunch of stomps in the face if he has enough mitigation, and phase the boss a little bit quicker. So it'll be putting some of the stress onto the tank instead of the healer, who will otherwise have to be healing up the Purifying Blasts. Also, you might get an extra DPS phase or something by just forcing his energy bar to deplete quicker, right? But it will always be two big AoE ordnance things where you stack up behind the boss, quite easy. And then you've got to decide now, like, do you want stomps or do you just want to wait for Purifying Blast? Because I always wondered actually why the timings were so fucked up on this boss sometimes. Like, sometimes it would be phasing really, really quick, and sometimes it would be taking absolutely ages to go into the DPS phase. And I just couldn't figure out why sometimes it had more energy than others. But there we go. Now I've shared it with you guys because I only actually learned that in season 3, like a week or something, maybe less than a week ago. So it's a pretty cool thing that I found. Or I was told, should I say. So blur every Purifying Blast you can, and then just do a bunch of damage in the damage phase. I don't really save anything. I think I just meted on pull or like just before the damage phase because I knew that I would have it up for a long time, and my Sinful Brand is pretty safe with Cycle of Hatred, even safer when you meta. So I'm just kind of like using it, and you'll see that now I put it on cooldown a little bit early so that I would have it for the upstairs. These 3 dudes upstairs, right? And you'll see that my damage on those is kind of kick-ass, not gonna lie. So pretty easy rest of the boss. And then we're gonna take the angels upstairs now that we have enough percentage, because we took that right pack. So that right pack that we took is making up for the fact that we skipped that patrol, if you remember, where we jumped off the edge and we didn't need the angels to carry us over, we just jumped off. So that's the percentage that we lacked, and then the other percentage that we lacked is the Hellion that we skipped at the bottom of that staircase where I told you about jumping over that little brazier, right? So that right pack made up for 2 skips, which is quite nice because it went down pretty easily, to be honest. Right, so now that we're upstairs, we opted to go for a double pull. So I put my Sinful Brand up on one of them, and then I meted on top of them to get double Sinful Brand, and then I beam to extend it. Now, what you have to do if you are double pulling these is perfectly fine to single pull these guys, by the way. But if you have damage and you are good at juggling kind of like your HP bars, I guess, the nameplates, then it's perfectly okay to pull 2. They don't really do that much. Like the first guy, the guy in the middle, doesn't really do anything except make the tank take more damage, and usually it's not enough to really cause any stress on anyone. So it's basically just free damage and free cleave if you can play both at the same time. The only time you wouldn't want to do it is like fortified and your tank's getting crushed. But yeah, all you have to do if you do this tactic is make sure that you are juggling, you know, they have to die at the same time or one's going to full heal the other. So as you can see, I'm just tab targeting between the 2 health bars here quite often and making sure, you know, they're only a couple percent apart if at all. I'm just trying to, every time I see one go a couple percent below, I'm switching to the other, and then I'm switching back and just making sure that they're basically hitting 1% at the same time, and that worked out perfectly. As you can see, my the meta was kind of worth there. I got like 18k damage on those guys, which is pretty awesome. Double Sinful Brand really works out because they're stacked up the whole time, and I can just extend both of them with my I-beams, and I'm resetting the cycle just the same. Single target, right? Now, we speared this other dude. On Fortified, you will want to spear and Bloodlust this guy. He is like the wipe mechanic of this key. If you get past this dude, you're pretty, and you have time for last pass, you're pretty safe. This guy just does like an infinitely stacking up damage. Like, he just does AoE damage, and he's also, because he's got the power from the first guy, he's also increasing your damage taken. So the longer this encounter goes on with this Klotos guy, he's just gonna repeatedly get harder and harder and harder and harder and harder until you eventually wipe, and your healer will run out of healing cooldowns and you will be done. So save your cooldowns for this if you can, especially on Fortified. He's not too much of a problem on Tyrannical, although we are starting to definitely push the boundary. He's dying quite slow here. Like maybe 5 or 10 more seconds and we probably would have started dying after that guy. And while you are doing all 3 of those mobs, one thing I want to just touch on is the spears that get thrown on the ground. They will catch people off guard quite a lot of times. They actually shoot out a cross pattern from the way they're facing. So if you look at them when they're impaled in the ground, they will be impaled like at an angle. That's like, I guess what I would say is forward, and they'll shoot out forwards, backwards, left and right at 90-degree angles, kind of like the boss in Plagueful when he jumps at someone and lands. The second boss, the slime dude. It works kind of a similar way, except I feel like the lines they shoot at are way harder to see. So they can definitely catch you off guard. Hopefully your tank understands what to do there and is just moving them around, so that it's making it easy for the melee. And just try not to, like, I really hope your tanks aren't tanking the mobs like really close to the spears, because it's really scary, and you have to have a lot of faith in your tank. But if you don't trust your tank, or it's a pug or something, then just make sure that you are looking at the spears yourself and trying to work out where it's safe. It's fine for the most part, except for maybe on Klothos, to just take a step away from the boss to make sure that you don't die, just to make sure that, you know, you are safe from those. Now on Devos, the boss, she will just fight you for a bit, and then it's either, I think it's about like 40 seconds ish in combat, or if she hits like 70%, that's when she phases. Now on hierarchies, you're never gonna do it through like the 70% thing, so you'll just get a little bit of a fight, and then you gotta go and do these handing in the balls. Now try and go early, I guess, as a DH, because you are quite mobile. You might even get to do 2 if you have someone in your group who's quite slow. But yeah, the general kind of consensus to the boss is you want to bait the run through at this wall. So hopefully you'll see me dash through now. I do. The run through's coming. I think I'm actually going to probably fuck it up here. Or someone will bait it correctly. Oh no, I stood in front, and then there we go. We're baiting it like into the wall. As you can see, she doesn't really move. So if you've got a lot of melee in your group, that's going to really help those guys out with staying up on the boss throughout this fight. So you can see on my timers when the run through's coming. She does operate on like a spell queue system, so it's not exactly on time, but once that run through has kind of like gone through the timers, you know that she's going to be doing it pretty soon. So you can kind of get in position to bait, and yeah, just make sure you're back in the shield for every abyssal detonation, of course, and that is kind of the healing check of the boss as well, the abyssal detonation, as well as the intermission phase for your healer. So if you can help your healer out with blur, if you're running the reduced cooldown reduction conduit for blur, which you obviously should be at all times, by the way, I'm just going to put that out there. If you're running that, then yeah, you can blur like every other one or every third one or something of those abyssal detonations, which is really good. You can also darkness one for your team. Just help out any way you can. You could even netherwalk one just to save your healer some damage, like one less person to heal, you know, can actually add up quite quickly. So help your healer out as much as you can, and just try and bait the run-throughs at the wall, really. Our Shami died here again. This Shami has died a few times in this key, but it's fine. We're pretty good on time. We got 6 minutes left, and we're about to go into the last phase. The last phase is super quick because she phases down at 30, so the second phase of the boss that we're on right now, that's going to be the one that takes a long time. Say on Tyrannical, you might only get her to like 85% before this phase, and then the spear takes her to maybe like 75. Then you've got to burn down from 75 to 30. You know, all in, like it just goes on until that's done, and your healer can really get stressed with the amount of healing cooldowns they have. So good damage on this boss is actually way more important than it first seems, and you only really start feeling it in these higher keys. When this boss starts taking a long time, and you'll see the stress it puts on the healer. As you can see, our Shami right now is pretty because that phase went on quite a long time. And the last phase, pretty easy to be honest, because the spear will pretty much take her down from 30% to 15%, and you can actually see that I kept up my sinful brand through the intermission there. So I'm doing 11k on this boss right now, which is insane because there's quite a lot of downtime, right? She's running out of range of us sometimes because of the what's it called, the run through, and then she's flying off the platform for, if you know, like 10-15 seconds twice as well. So doing 11k with all that downtime, I think is pretty insane, to be honest. So I'm pretty chuffed with my damage on this boss. But as you can see, yeah, that's just from having good extensions. So if you can as well, like, you could either save your sinful brand for when she comes back, or you can, if you've been, you know, quite lucky with Cycle of Hatred procs like I must have got here, you'll just have a big one running in like 30 seconds when she goes up, and then it'll, you know, hopefully your group's good enough that the phase isn't going to take 30 seconds, so you'll be able to, you know, still have it up and just extend it again once she comes back down. And if then it falls off, that's when you can re-sinful brand with the I-beam ready, right? And then if you have a nice meta or something, you can extend it even further. But yeah, that's the key. Quite a nice one, I thought. I kind of knew this one was going on YouTube as soon as we finished. Obviously, I had a couple hiccups myself, especially on the third boss when that, I don't know, those ordnance things like clipped my heel or my big toe or something, and then I died. I even after watching it back, I don't think that I was in that, but there you go. Multi-dollar company game works weirdly sometimes. Maybe my graphics settings were too low or something, so it could definitely be that. Anyway, either way, I will take it on myself and say that's my B, you know. But here's my damage breakdown. If you're interested in seeing everything, you know, all the different ability damage and stuff, I'm going to try and bring up that at the end of each key when I do these commentaries. So you can see my Sinful Brand is doing insane damage, closely followed by Annihilation. And then Immolation are actually not doing too bad damage, to be honest. When you look at the actual number, like 2.58 million, that's actually pretty good. Considering I'm not running Burning Wound or anything like that. Rush also doing kind of work. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can see my Trinket doing quite good as well. Definitely more than my Ooze, so I must have used it okay. I always tried to get my Vicious Wound above my Plaguefall Ooze Trinket, basically. If I can do that, then at least it wasn't a bad pick. And if I can get it way above that, then I played it really well. That's kind of my general rule of thumb if I made the Vicious Wound Trinket work or the Cache for Acquired Treasures or whatever. But yeah, that's about it, guys. Got a few more videos coming out in the next couple of days. A Night Fae build, which is basically the same as the old build. Stay tuned for that one. If you're interested, feel free again to subscribe to the channel if you like my stuff. Make sure you like the video. If you're still here, you definitely like the video. Okay, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. I hope you also enjoyed your drinky poo that you had for this commentary. And yeah, I will give a quick shout out to the Patreons. If you are interested in supporting the channel, feel free to check out my Patreon. I'll link that down below, along with my Twitch stream. Feel free to come say hi, ask any questions over there as well. Thank you to the guys on Patreon that do support the channel. I will put their names on screen now. Thank you very much. It's pretty newly released, so if any of you are interested in that, yeah, feel free to go check it out. And yeah, I will put on screen for you now links to my Venthyr guides. Those ones are the First Blood build and the Cycle of Hatred build that I am using in this key. So feel free to click on the screen for any of those. And until then, guys, thank you very, very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, peace.